Welcome back to another episode of To the Aetheryte, your one-stop watch for everything Final Fantasy XIV related. I'm your host, Super Saiyan Ginger, and in today's episode, we will be going over everything you need to know in order to get started in Final Fantasy XIV. As always, timestamps for each section of this video will be located in the description. So feel free to jump to the certain point that you need the most. Topics we will be going over in today's video consist of character creation, class selection, along with all the roles, the data centers, world servers. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start off the video. Okay, so the way character customization is going to work is once you actually get into it, it's going to ask you what race of character you want to be. Now, one thing worth noting here is that every race does have two different species attached to it. So, for instance, your Rothgar has the Helions and the Lost. All of this really does is impact what skin or fur color your character will have, depending on what race you are. The other thing worth noting here is that between races, it doesn't matter which one you choose as far as appearance goes. They will all have the same hairstyles, facial markings, tattoos. The only time you're going to see different variations of that is switching between races. Not all races share the same hairstyles. And then last thing I want to note is that Rothgar and Viera are the only two classes in the game that cannot wear helmets. So even though the Viera is wearing a quote-unquote helmet here, this is actually because it's a preset customization thing with the Viera, whereas if we go to any of the other races, you'll actually see them wearing the Lancer helmets. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go with the Rothgar because it's preloaded. So again, your clans are going to be your two different variations, which will affect fur color on the Rothgar specifically, skin color if you're doing anybody else. Appearance data is just how you want your Rothgar to look. I'm not going to really go over this because that is all personal preference. However, once you do finish customizing your character's appearance, it's going to ask if you want to save appearance data. I always go ahead and do this whenever I create a new character, because as you can see here, these are all of the characters I've created, so it'll show you their species here. So if you want to save it, all you have to do is just hit whatever save slot you want to save it in, hit yes. You can add a comment if you want. I'm choosing not to here. So we'll just go ahead, hit yes, and now my data's been saved. So if I wanted to, I could go back to the start screen, hit new character, and then a box will appear that asks if you want to load new appearance data. At that time, if you hit yes, it'll pull up every character you've currently created that you saved data for. So for the name day, this is just going to be the month and the day you were born. This doesn't impact anything within the game. This is strictly for role-playing purposes. So if you pop down this first astral moon, you'll see 12 different options representing the 12 months, and then you have your typical calendar days. And then for Guardian, again, this is for role-playing purposes, and it's just selecting a god that you follow. Again, this will have zero impact on the gameplay whatsoever. There's no story purposes or anything. It is strictly a role-playing mechanic. So this doesn't matter if you're just wanting to speed through character customization. And then last up, we have the classes you can choose from. Now, there are 5 different classes in total here, each breaking down to, I think, about 9 total. So what I want to go ahead and cover are the types of classes that can be found. First up are going to be your tanks, and this is going to consist of your Gladiator and your Marauder. Your Gladiator at level 30 upon picking up your Soulstone will evolve into a Paladin, and your Marauder at level 30 upon picking up your Soulstone will evolve into a Warrior. Again, these are going to be the only 2 tank options you can pick up right now. Next up, we have the Melee DPS, and your 2 options for that are going to be Pugilist, which upon level 30 picking up your Soulstone will evolve into a Monk, and Lancer, which at level 30 upon picking up your Soulstone will evolve into a Dragoon. We only have one physical range DPS in the selection right now, and that is going to be the Archer, which at level 30, upon picking up your Soul Stone, will evolve into a Bard. And then that will bring us into the Disciples of Magic. So these are going to be all your spellcasters and mana users. First up, we have the only healing class we can play at Conjurer, and upon getting your Soul Stone at level 30, will evolve into a White Mage. And then the last two are going to be Magic Range DPS. And the first one up is the Thaumaturge, and at level 30, upon picking up your Soul Stone, will evolve into a Black Mage. And then we have the Arcanist, which at level 30, upon picking up your Soul Stone, will evolve into a Summoner. So depending on the class you want to play is what you would go ahead and select here. For me, I want to go ahead and play as the Paladin. The only other thing really worth noting here is that upon picking whatever class, it's going to dictate what your starting city is. So for instance, with my Gladiator, I will be starting in Olda. However, if I go Pugilist, conveniently also in Olda. So if I go Marauder, I'll be starting off in Limsa, and if I go Archer, I'll be starting off in Gridania. Those are going to be your main 3 starting cities to pick from. So once you go ahead, have your character created, get all the role-playing aspects set up if you do choose to do that, and pick your class, you will actually be asked at that point to select your data center and world server. So for me, I can't actually change my data center because I'm currently have a character on Primal. I have to stay on the Primal data center. And my only 2 options for actually picking what server or world I want to go on is between Lamia and Hyperion. Now, I'm not actually going to select either one of these just because I already have a character created, and I don't, at this point right now, I don't see a point in creating a second character. But the actual data centers you could pick from are going to be Aether, Primal, and Crystal here in North America. And then each one of those selections will have their own separate list of worlds that you can pick. So if you want to play with me, I am on the Hyperion NA Legacy server. However, that's only if you really want to be in my FC. You can pick any of the Primal World servers that are open at the time, and we would still be able to play together. So the last thing of worth noting on this screen specifically is you'll see that Ultros, Famfrit, and Leviathan are actually blocked out. This means I can't actually create characters at this time on these servers. The only 2 options I have are Lamia and Hyperion to create them. So if I went ahead and chose Hyperion, hit create, I would then be asked to put in my first name and last name. But again, not going to go ahead and do that just because there's no need. So I'm going to go ahead, load in the game on my main character, and I'll actually show you the starting cities that you can take part in. All right. The last thing I want to go over in this video is actually how to read the map. I feel like this is the most important thing new players struggle with, especially with the starting cities. So upon actually creating your character, inputting their surname, and starting the game, you'll actually be met with a cutscene. That cutscene will go ahead and play and put you in whichever starting city your class starts at. Now, it's worth noting that once you hit level 15, you will be, through the main story, you'll be forced to travel to the other 2 cities you haven't ventured yet, and at that time, you can pick up the other starting jobs that you may have missed out on or potentially wanted to level up as well. So, as far as the map goes, however, I'm going to just go ahead and fill my whole screen up with this. Let's just pop you up there. So, as you can see, you have a drop-down section in the top left, and this will bring you to what we call the world map. As you can see, I'm this little blue dot right here in Olda. And the way you can actually go about navigating the map is you can either click on Olda and it will bring you up to this specific part, or you could come to the drop down arrows. Again, in the top left, you'll see Thanalan, Right under that, I could come to Ul'dah Steppes of Nod. And this will show me just this section of Ul'dah. Now, if I wanted to move to another section of the map, again, there's two ways I can go about it. The easiest way is going back to the drop down and hitting Steppes of Thaw, which will take me to the other part of the Ul'dah map. However, if you look on the map, you'll see all of these arrows pointing different directions. You can actually go ahead and select those to jump around the map as well. However, when your map's miniaturized up in the corner of your screen, I find it easier to just use the drop-down arrows. So Ul'dah's broken down into 3 different sections. You're going to have the main area, which is where your main aetheryte is, and that's the Steppes of Nod. You are then going to have the intersection of Ul'dah, which is going to be the Steppes of Nod. And then last but not least, you will have the Goblet Exchange here. From Ul'dah, you can actually get to all of these outskirting cities. And the way you can pull up their maps is the exact same way. You hit the drop down arrow. You'll have Western Thanalan, Central Thanalan, Eastern, Southern, and finally Northern. And all of the starting cities are going to be just like that. So, for instance, let's go ahead and pop into the most popular city in the game, Limsa Lominsa. So, if I go ahead and just click on Limsa, it's going to take me to a portion of the map with the starting aetheryte. However, Limsa is probably one of the most complicated cities to navigate because instead of it being in sections to where if I walk from where I'm currently standing in-game back, I will be put into the next section of Ul'dah because I'm basically going inside the building that the central hub of Ul'dah is located in. What makes Limsa complicated is that it's actually tiered. So you have the upper decks of Limsa, and then you have the main aetheryte plaza, which is what we're looking at now, and then you have the lower decks. So if you go ahead and go to the Limsa upper decks, this is what the map will look like. And then you go back down to the lower decks, that's exactly what we were looking at before. From Limsa, you can actually go ahead and let me just go back to the overview. Just like with Thanalan, you'll have Western Lenosia, Outer Lenosia, Upper Lenosia, Eastern, and Lower. And then down here, you will have the Wolves Den Pier. This is for your Grand Company. And then finally, we have Gridania here. And Gridania is the easiest city to honestly navigate because it's actually just broken up into 2 sections. So you're going to have Old Gridania, or New Gridania, which is where the main aetheryte is. And then walking back in further into Gridania will bring you to Old Gridania. And that's it. It is the easiest starting city to navigate and the one I recommend the most. However, if you do end up starting on an Ul'dah or Limsa, don't get frustrated, man. The map's going to take a little bit of getting used to. It's not something even I grasped early on. And there were plenty of times, specifically in Ul'dah, when I'm trying to find my Paladin job quest that I just get absolutely lost starting off. So understand there is going to be some frustration with it. However, I hope these tooltips did help you. So with that, that is going to be the end of today's episode. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Final Fantasy XIV related content, and drop a comment down below. Let me know your starting job and your favorite starting city to join. Again, my favorite city has to be Gridania, just because of the ease of use and the actual setting of the city, just because Ul'dah is very much more of a desert, whereas Gridania is much more of a forest, and then Limsa is your ocean coast. So with that, that will end today's episode of To the Aetheryte. Again, I've been your host, Super Saiyan Ginger, and I will see y'all next time.